The day Caroline told me I would die alone with my cats, I made a silent promise to prove her wrong. Little did she know she'd be arranging the centerpieces at my wedding. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that'll make your petty heart sing. I still remember the exact moment Caroline decided to crush my spirit. We were at my brother Mark's house for their annual 4th of July barbecue, surrounded by perfect couples and their perfect children running around with sparklers. I was helping set up the picnic tables when Caroline cornered me by the coolers. "So, Willow, anyone special in your life yet?" she asked, that sugary sweet tone dripping with what I'd come to recognize as her particular brand of concern. "Not at the moment," I replied, arranging potato salad containers with unnecessary precision. At 32, I'd grown accustomed to this question at family gatherings. Caroline leaned in, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the sunlight as she placed her manicured hand on my arm. "You know, I worry about you. Mark and I were talking and, well, not everyone is meant to find their person." I froze, plastic fork suspended midair. "It's just that you're so particular," she continued. "Maybe you should consider adopting another cat. They make wonderful companions for women who what, Caroline?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Who might be spending their lives alone," she finished, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just being realistic. Not everyone gets the fairy tale." Before I could respond, my 5-year-old niece Emma came bouncing over, saving me from saying something I'd regret at a family function. Carolyn gave my arm a final patronizing squeeze before gliding away to greet new arrivals. I escaped to the bathroom, gripping the sink as I stared at my reflection. My curly hair was falling out of its messy bun, my sundress had a small ketchup stain I hadn't noticed, and my eyes were bright with unshed tears. I wasn't the polished Connecticut housewife that Caroline was, with her perfect blonde highlights and rotating wardrobe of Lily Pulitzer dresses. But did that mean I was destined to be alone? My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from my best friend Zoe. "How's Satan's sister-in-law today? Still breathing fire?" I smiled despite myself and typed back, "She just told me I should get more cats since I'll be alone forever." 3 dots appeared immediately, followed by, "I'll bring wine to your place later. We're making a revenge plan." That night, sprawled across my couch with Zoe and a bottle of Cabernet, I finally let the tears flow. "I don't understand why she hates me so much," I sniffled, petting Scout, my admittedly beloved tabby cat who was purring on my lap. "Is it so hard to believe someone could love me?" "Caroline is insecure and threatened by anyone different from her," Zoe said, topping off my glass. "And you, my beautiful, artistic, free-spirited friend, are her worst nightmare because you're happy without following her life script." I wasn't so sure about the happy part right now, but Zoe had a point. After leaving my corporate marketing job 2 years ago to open a small bookstore in downtown Portland, I'd found a kind of contentment that had always eluded me in my previous life. My little shop, Turning Page Books, wasn't making me rich, but it was mine. I hosted reading groups, writing workshops, and had created a community I loved. "You know what really kills me?" I said, wiping my eyes. "Mark used to be my best friend. We were so close growing up. Now he just stands there while she says these things." "Men are useless in family dynamics," Zoe declared, raising her glass in a toast. "But you know what? Caroline is wrong. You're not going to be alone forever. You're going to find someone amazing who appreciates everything about you, and when you do, we're going to make sure Caroline eats her words." I clinked my glass against hers, wanting desperately to believe her. The universe has a funny way of working sometimes. 3 weeks after Caroline's prediction of my cat lady future, I was hosting a local author event at my bookstore when he walked in. He was tall with dark-rimmed glasses and curly brown hair that fell across his forehead. He arrived 10 minutes late, slipping into the back row with an apologetic smile. Throughout the reading, I caught him watching me instead of the author, and when everyone was browsing afterward, he approached the counter. "This is a great place," he said, glancing around at the exposed brick walls lined with bookshelves. "I just moved to the area and was looking for somewhere that felt like home. Well, that's exactly what I was going for, I replied, smiling. I'm Willow, the owner. Noah, he said, extending his hand. Noah Griffin. I'm the new English professor at Portland State. His hand was warm, his grip firm, and when our eyes met, something shifted in the air between us. What kind of books do you like, Professor Griffin? I asked, already mentally cataloging recommendations. Noah, please, he insisted, and everything from Russian literature to graphic novels. But what I'm really looking for is a good book club. Do you have any that aren't exclusively romance or true crime? I laughed. As a matter of fact, we have a classics reimagined group that meets every other Thursday. We read classics alongside their modern retellings or adaptations. We're starting The Odyssey next week, paired with Madeline Miller's Circe. That sounds perfect, he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners when he smiled. Should I sign up somewhere? I handed him a registration form, our fingers brushing briefly. First meeting is free. If you hate us, no obligation to return. I highly doubt I'll hate anything about this place, he said, looking directly at me as he filled out the form. After he left, Zoe, who worked part-time at the shop, emerged from behind a bookshelf where she'd been not-so-subtly eavesdropping. Well, 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 she said, waggling her eyebrows. Professor Hottie seemed very interested in our Thursday book club, and by book club, I mean you. Stop it, I said, but I couldn't help smiling. He's just new in town and looking for community. Uh-huh, Zoe nodded skeptically. That's why he couldn't take his eyes off you during the entire reading. Trust me, he'll be back. Noah did come back, not just for the book club, but the very next day, claiming he needed recommendations for his syllabus. And the day after that, bringing me a coffee because he happened to be passing by. By the time Thursday's book club rolled around, we'd established a comfortable rapport, and I found myself looking forward to seeing him in a group setting. That night, our usual 8 members showed up, plus Noah, who arrived early to help me arrange chairs. The discussion was lively, with Noah offering insightful comments that managed to be scholarly without being pretentious. Afterward, as everyone was leaving, he lingered. A few of us usually grab drinks at the pub down the street if you'd like to join, I offered, trying to sound casual. I'd love to, he said, helping me stack the last of the chairs. 1 drink turned into 3, and when the others left, Noah and I stayed, talking about everything from our favorite childhood books to our most embarrassing teaching moments. It was nearly midnight when we finally left the pub, and he walked me back to my car. I had a really great time tonight, he said, standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and warm. Me too, I replied, suddenly aware of my heartbeat. Would it be okay if I called you sometime? Maybe we could grab dinner, just the 2 of us? The streetlight illuminated half his face, casting the other half in shadow. In that moment, Caroline's words echoed in my mind. Not everyone is meant to find their person. I pushed the thought away. I'd like that, I said, taking out my phone to exchange numbers. As I drove home that night, I couldn't help but smile. Maybe, just maybe, Caroline was wrong about me after all. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street downtown. I spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear before settling on a green wrap dress that Zoe always said brought out my eyes. Noah was waiting outside when I arrived, holding a small wrapped package. I know bringing flowers is traditional, he said, handing me the gift, but this seemed more appropriate. Inside was a vintage copy of Pride and Prejudice, with beautiful illustrations. I noticed you didn't have this edition in your shop, he explained, looking slightly nervous. The lady at the used bookstore said it's from the 1940s. I ran my fingers over the embossed cover, touched beyond words. This is perfect, I managed to say. Thank you. Dinner was even better than I expected. Conversation flowed easily as we shared plates of pasta and a bottle of red wine. Noah told me about growing up in Chicago with his librarian mother and architect father, about his passion for teaching literature to students who initially thought they hated reading. What about you? He asked. How did you end up with a bookstore in Portland? I told him about my marketing career in Boston, how I'd felt increasingly hollow promoting products I didn't believe in, how after my father died 3 years ago, leaving me a small inheritance, I decided life was too short for should-haves and some-days. My brother thought I was having a breakdown, I admitted. Maybe I was, but it was the kind that rebuilds you stronger. Noah reached across the table, taking my hand. I think it's brave to change your life like that. Most people just daydream about it. His thumb traced circles on my palm, and I felt a flutter in my chest that had nothing to do with the wine. After dinner, we walked along the waterfront, the night air cool against my skin. When Noah slipped his jacket over my shoulders, I couldn't help but lean into him slightly. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said as we stopped to watch a ferry crossing the river, its lights reflecting on the dark water. "Sure," I replied, curious. "Are you close with your family? You mentioned your brother thought you were having a breakdown, but you didn't sound particularly concerned about his opinion." I sighed, watching my breath form a small cloud in the autumn air. "It's complicated. Mark and I were really close growing up, just 15 months apart, shared everything. But when he married Caroline 6 years ago, things changed." "Changed how?" "Caroline has very specific ideas about how life should be lived. White picket fence, 2.5 kids, country club membership. I'm not that. She makes little comments, judges my choices. Mark never stands up for me." Noah frowned. "That sounds difficult." "The worst part is, sometimes I wonder if she's right," I admitted, voicing a fear I'd barely acknowledged to myself. Maybe there is something wrong with me, with how I live my life. Noah turned to face me, his expression serious in the dim light. "There's nothing wrong with you, Willow. From what I can see, you've built a life with meaning and purpose. That's more than most people ever do." When he kissed me, gentle and questioning at first, then deeper as I responded, I felt something unlock inside me, a door I hadn't realized I'd been keeping closed. Over the next few months, Noah became a fixture in my life. He'd grade papers in the corner of my bookstore on weekend afternoons, help me shelve new arrivals, and bring me coffee from the cafe down the street just the way I liked it. We'd spend evenings cooking dinner at my small apartment, or his slightly larger one, talking for hours about books, music, and increasingly, our hopes for the future. For Thanksgiving, I reluctantly agreed to bring Noah to dinner at Mark and Caroline's house. I'd been avoiding family gatherings since the 4th of July incident, making excuses about inventory and events at the store. But Noah was curious to meet my family, and I couldn't hide him forever. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked as we drove through the suburbs toward my brother's house. "Caroline can be a lot." Noah squeezed my hand. "I've faced down lecture halls full of hungover freshmen who hate poetry. I think I can handle one judgmental sister-in-law." I wasn't so confident, but his calm presence beside me was reassuring. The house was exactly as I remembered, perfectly decorated for the season with tasteful autumn wreaths and pumpkin arrangements. Caroline greeted us at the door in a burgundy dress and pearls, her smile tightening almost imperceptibly when she saw Noah. "Willow, you made it," she said, air-kissing my cheek before turning to Noah. "And this must be the professor we've heard so little about." "Noah Griffin," he said, extending his hand. "It's nice to meet you, Caroline. Thank you for having us." "Of course," she replied, her eyes assessing him. "Family is always welcome, and Willow's friends." The slight pause wasn't lost on me, but Noah simply smiled. Mark was more genuinely welcoming, clapping Noah on the back and immediately offering him a beer. My niece Emma was delighted to meet someone new, especially when Noah produced a small wrapped package from his coat pocket, a children's adaptation of Greek myths that had her completely enthralled. Dinner was a masterclass in passive-aggressive hostility. Caroline peppered Noah with questions about his career prospects, tenure track or just adjunct, his family background, Griffin, is that Irish, and not so subtly, his intentions. "It's just so interesting that you've settled down in Portland," she said, cutting her turkey into precise pieces. "Most academics I know are always looking for the next opportunity, the next university. Not exactly the settling down type. Noah took it all in stride. Actually, Portland State has one of the best comparative literature programs in the region. I'm hoping to put down roots here. He glanced at me as he said it, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest. Caroline noticed too. Well, that's nice. Though Willow herself isn't exactly known for stability. Did she tell you she abandoned a perfectly good career to open that little bookshop? Such a risk in this economy. She did, Noah replied easily. I think it's admirable to pursue your passion. The bookstore is wonderful, a real community hub. Yes, well, community doesn't pay the mortgage, Caroline said with a tight smile. Actually, I interjected, finding my voice, the bookstore is doing quite well. We just got a grant to expand our children's literacy program. Mark, sensing tension, quickly changed the subject to safer territory, college football and Emma's soccer league. Later, as we were helping clear the table, Caroline cornered me in the kitchen. He seems nice, she said, loading the dishwasher with military precision. Very charming. He is, I agreed, wary of her tone. Just be careful, Willow. Men like that, handsome, educated, smooth talkers, they can make you believe anything. Don't get your hopes up too high. I stared at her incredulous. What exactly are you implying? She sighed, as if I were being deliberately obtuse. I'm just saying that Noah seems like the type who dates a lot of women. I'd hate to see you investing too much in something that might be temporary. You don't know anything about him, I said, my voice low but intense. Or about us. I'm only looking out for you, she replied, patting my arm in that condescending way I hated. Someone has to be realistic. I bit back the retort forming on my tongue, reminding myself we were in her home, on a holiday. But as Noah and I drove back to the city that night, I couldn't shake her words. Your sister-in-law really doesn't think much of me, does she? Noah said as we crossed the bridge back into Portland. It's not you, I sighed. It's me. She's never approved of my choices, and now she's projecting that onto you. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Noah reached over and took my hand. Hey, don't apologize. I'm not easily scared off, especially not by someone who clearly doesn't see how amazing you are. I smiled at him in the darkness of the car, wondering how I'd gotten so lucky. Besides, he added with a grin, your brother's cool and Emma's adorable. Overall, I'd call it a successful first family meeting. I leaned over and kissed his cheek, grateful beyond words for his understanding. But as we drove through the night, Caroline's warning echoed in my mind. Don't get your hopes up too high. Winter melted into spring, and Noah and I fell into a comfortable rhythm. He'd spend most nights at my place, since it was closer to both the university and my bookstore. Scout, normally wary of strangers, had taken to sleeping on Noah's chest, much to my amusement and slight jealousy. Your cat likes me better than you, Noah teased one lazy Sunday morning as we lounged in bed, Scout purring contentedly between us. She's clearly a traitor, I replied, reaching over to scratch Scout's ears. Though I can't really blame her. I like you quite a bit myself. Noah's expression softened as he looked at me. Just, quite a bit? My heart stuttered. We hadn't said the words yet, though I'd been feeling them for months. Maybe more than that, I admitted, suddenly shy. Noah leaned over Scout to kiss me. Good, because I love you, Willow Bennett. Have for a while now. The words hung in the air between us, beautiful and terrifying. I thought of Caroline's warnings, of my own fears of abandonment after watching Mark drift away. But looking at Noah, his earnest expression, the way the morning light caught in his curls, I knew this was different. I love you too, I whispered, and the smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Later that day, as we walked through the farmer's market picking up ingredients for dinner, Noah brought up an unexpected subject. So, I was thinking about looking for a new place when my lease is up next month, he said casually, examining a bunch of asparagus with unnecessary focus. My stomach dropped. Was he moving? Had I misunderstood this morning's exchange completely? Oh, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. Found a neighborhood you like better? Actually, he said, finally looking at me, I was wondering how you'd feel about us finding a place together. Something with more space than your apartment. Maybe a small yard for Scout, closer to both our workplaces. Relief washed over me, followed immediately by excitement. You want us to move in together? Officially? Only if you want to, he said quickly. I know it's a big step, and if you're not ready. I cut him off with a kiss, not caring that we were standing in the middle of the vegetable section. Yes, I said against his lips. Absolutely yes. We found a charming craftsman-style house to rent in a neighborhood halfway between the university and my bookstore. It had built-in bookshelves in the living room, which Noah said was a sign, a small fenced backyard, and a sunroom perfect for reading. Moving in together felt both momentous and utterly natural, as if we'd been heading here all along. One evening in June, as we were unpacking the last of our merged book collections, a task that had sparked numerous friendly debates about organizational systems, my phone rang. It was Mark, which was unusual enough to make me answer immediately. Everything okay? I asked, cradling the phone between ear and shoulder as I shelved Noah's collection of Russian novels. Yeah, all good, Mark replied, though he sounded tense. Listen, Emma's birthday party is next weekend. Caroline's gone all out, hired a princess performer, bouncy castle, the works. Emma really wants her Aunt Willow there. I hesitated. Since Thanksgiving, I'd managed to limit my interaction with Caroline to brief, civil exchanges at family events I couldn't avoid. The thought of spending hours at a party she was hosting wasn't appealing. Of course I'll be there for Emma, I said finally. Can I bring Noah? There was a pause. Actually, that's partly why I'm calling. Caroline. She'd prefer if it was just family this time. Says there'll be too many people already. I closed my eyes, counting to 10 silently. Noah is my family now, Mark. We live together. You do? The surprise in his voice stung. Had he been paying so little attention to my life? Yes, for 2 weeks now. I would have told you if you'd asked. Another pause. Look, I didn't know. That's great, really. But Caroline's already stressed about this party, and I'm trying to keep the peace here. Just this once. Can you come solo? I wanted to argue, to point out how unfair it was, but what would be the point? Mark had made his choice years ago. Fine, I said shortly. For Emma. Thanks, Will. I owe you one. After hanging up, I explained the situation to Noah, who took it with his usual grace. It's okay, he assured me. Go be the cool aunt. I've got papers to grade anyway. The day of the party was sweltering, the kind of heat that makes you regret any movement. Caroline's backyard had been transformed into a pink and purple princess wonderland, complete with a throne for the birthday girl. Emma was delighted to see me, showing off her new princess dress and tiara. Aunt Willow, you came, she squealed, hugging me tightly. Of course I did, birthday princess, I said, handing her the wrapped books Noah and I had picked out together. I wouldn't miss it. As Emma ran off to show her friends her presents, Caroline approached, immaculate in a floral sundress despite the heat. Willow, glad you could make it, she said, handing me a glass of something pink and fruity. Emma's been asking for you all morning. Wouldn't miss it, I repeated, taking a sip of the too-sweet drink. Caroline's gaze dropped to my left hand, where Noah's grandmother's ring now sat. We'd gotten engaged just days ago, a quiet moment in our new backyard under the stars. I hadn't told anyone in my family yet, planning to wait until after Emma's birthday to avoid stealing her thunder. Is that what I think it is? Caroline asked, her voice sharp. I instinctively covered the ring with my other hand, then stopped myself. Yes. Noah proposed on Tuesday. Caroline's expression was unreadable. Well, that was quick. We've been together almost a year, I pointed out. Still, big commitment for someone you haven't known very long. She paused, looking around to ensure no one was listening. Are you sure about this, Willow? Marriage isn't something to rush into because you're afraid of being alone. The accusation hit its mark, as she'd known it would. I'm not afraid of being alone, I said, keeping my voice low for Emma's sake. I love Noah, and he loves me. Caroline smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. If you say so. I just hope you're not setting yourself up for disappointment. Noah seems like the type who— Who what, Caroline? I interrupted, my patience finally snapping. Who could actually love me? Is that so hard for you to believe? Her eyes widened slightly at my tone. I'm just being realistic. You've always been different. Impulsive. You throw yourself into things without thinking them through. Your move to Portland, that bookstore, and now this engagement. I'm concerned, that's all. No, you're not, I said, suddenly seeing clearly. You've never been concerned about me. You've been judging me from day one because I don't fit into your perfect picture of what a woman should be. Caroline's face flushed. That's not true. I've always tried to help you, to guide you. I never asked for your guidance, I cut in. And I don't need it now. I'm happy, Caroline, truly happy. Why can't you just be happy for me? Before she could answer, Emma came running up, breaking the tension. Aunt Willow, come see my princess cake. I forced a smile, allowing my niece to drag me away. For the rest of the party, Caroline and I circled each other warily, maintaining a brittle civility for Emma's sake. When I got home that evening, emotionally drained and sticky from the heat, I found Noah in the kitchen making dinner, Scout weaving between his legs hopefully. How was the princess extravaganza? He asked, pulling me into a hug. I buried my face in his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of him. Caroline saw the ring. Ah, he said, understanding immediately. Not good? She basically implied I'm only marrying you because I'm desperate not to be alone. The words still stung, even knowing they weren't true. Noah tilted my chin up, his expression serious. You know that's ridiculous, right? You're the most self-sufficient person I know. You built a whole life here before I ever came along. I nodded, though part of me, the insecure part that still craved my family's approval, wondered if there was a grain of truth in Caroline's words. Had I rushed things with Noah? As if reading my thoughts, Noah said, Hey, if you're having second thoughts— No, I interrupted firmly. Not about you, never about you. I just hate that she can still get under my skin like this. Noah kissed my forehead. She only has that power if you give it to her. He was right, I knew. But as we ate dinner on our back porch, watching fireflies emerge in the twilight, a plan began to form in my mind. Maybe it was petty, maybe it was immature, but for once in my life, I wanted Caroline to eat her words. Our wedding planning was deliberately low-key. Neither of us wanted anything elaborate, just a small ceremony in the botanical gardens followed by a reception at our favorite restaurant. We set the date for early October, when the gardens would be awash in autumn colors. When it came time to send invitations, I sat staring at Caroline and Mark's address on the envelope. You don't have to invite them, Noah said gently, seeing my hesitation. Mark's my brother, I replied, and Emma would be crushed if she couldn't come. Besides, I smiled, thinking of my plan. I want Caroline there. Noah raised an eyebrow. Really? Last I checked, you could barely tolerate being in the same room with her. I took a deep breath. I'm going to ask her to do the flowers. What? Noah looked genuinely confused. Willow, are you feeling okay? Hear me out, I said, warming to my idea. Caroline's always bragging about her garden club awards and how she did the flowers for the hospital charity gala. She's good at it. I'll give her that. So I'll ask her to be our florist. And this accomplishes what, exactly? She'll have to be part of our wedding. The wedding she said I'd never have because no one could possibly love me. Every arrangement she makes, every boutonniere she pins, every centerpiece she places will be a reminder that she was wrong about me. Noah looked at me for a long moment. That's either brilliant or slightly unhinged. I'm not sure which. Maybe both, I admitted with a small laugh. But I think I need this. I need her to acknowledge, even if it's just to herself, that she was wrong about me, about us. Noah took my hand, his expression serious. As long as you're doing this for closure, not revenge. I don't want our wedding day to be about proving something to Caroline. It won't be, I promised. The wedding is about us. This is just healing an old wound. The next day, I called Caroline directly instead of going through Mark. She sounded surprised to hear from me. Willow, is everything all right? Everything's great, I said, keeping my voice light. Noah and I have set our wedding date for October 8th, and I was hoping to ask you a favor. Oh, the wariness in her voice was palpable. I know how talented you are with floral arrangements. Your garden is always beautiful, and those centerpieces you did for the hospital gala were stunning. Would you consider doing the flowers for our wedding? As your gift to us? The silence that followed was so long, I wondered if we'd been disconnected. You want me to do your wedding flowers? She finally asked, disbelief evident in her tone. Yes. No one else I know has your eye for detail and color. The ceremony will be at the Botanical Gardens, so nothing too elaborate needed there. But we'll need bouquets, boutonnieres, and centerpieces for the reception. Another pause. I'm flattered you thought of me, she said cautiously. But are you sure? We haven't exactly been close lately. All the more reason, I replied smoothly. I'd like us to try to move past our differences, for Mark and Emma's sake, if nothing else. I could almost hear her thinking, weighing the social implications of refusing versus the opportunity to control yet another aspect of my life. All right, she said finally. Send me your color scheme and budget and we can meet to discuss specifics. Perfect, I said, unable to keep a hint of satisfaction from my voice. I'll email you everything. Over the next few months, Caroline threw herself into the role of wedding florist with characteristic intensity. She sent me dozens of inspiration photos, arranged meetings with the botanical garden staff, and even drove 2 hours to a specialty flower farm to source specific dahlias she insisted would perfectly complement my dress. To my surprise, I found myself actually enjoying our planning sessions. When we focused on flowers rather than my life choices, Caroline was knowledgeable and creative. She listened to what I wanted, wildflowers, nothing too structured or formal, and came up with designs that were genuinely beautiful. These are really lovely, I told her sincerely at our final meeting, looking through her sketches and sample arrangements. Better than I imagined. Something softened in her expression. Thank you. I'm happy to help. There was an awkward pause, as if both of us were uncertain how to navigate this new, more peaceful dynamic. Can I ask you something? I said finally. Why have you always been so hard on me? Caroline looked startled by the direct question. She fidgeted with a loose dahlia petal on the table. I wouldn't say I've been hard on you, she began defensively, then stopped herself. But I suppose I have been judgmental at times. At times? I raised an eyebrow. She sighed. Look, Willow, when I met Mark, he talked about you constantly. His brilliant little sister who was climbing the corporate ladder, who had everything figured out. Then I actually met you, and you were so confident, so sure of yourself and your choices, even when they seemed impractical to me. I wasn't always confident, I admitted. I was just good at faking it. Well, it worked, Caroline said with a small laugh. I felt intimidated, I guess. I'd always followed the safe path, college, marriage, suburbia. But you seemed fearless. I stared at her, genuinely shocked. You were intimidated by me? But you always acted like you had everything figured out, like your way was the only right way to live. Defense mechanism, she said with a shrug. When you quit your job to open that bookstore, I couldn't understand taking that kind of risk. It scared me, the idea of upending your whole life like that. So instead of admiring your courage, I criticized your decision. And when I started dating Noah, Caroline had the grace to look embarrassed. I thought it wouldn't last. You're both so independent, so different from Mark and me. I couldn't see how it would work. But it does work, I said softly. We're different, but we fit. She nodded, looking down at her hands. I see that now. I'm sorry, Willow, for what I said at the barbecue last year and, well, for a lot of things. The apology caught me off guard. I'd invited Caroline to do the flowers as a form of subtle revenge, a way to make her face how wrong she'd been about me. I hadn't expected an actual reconciliation. "Thank you," I said, meaning it. "That means a lot." On the morning of the wedding, I was getting ready with Zoe and my other bridesmaids when there was a knock at the door of our preparation room at the gardens. "Delivery for the bride," called a familiar voice. Caroline entered, carrying a bouquet more beautiful than anything she'd shown me in our planning sessions, wildflowers in rich autumn colors, accented with small sprigs of lavender and rosemary. "Something told me you'd want herbs in your bouquet," she said, handing it to me carefully. "For that wonderful smell. And look," she pointed to a small book charm tucked among the flowers. "I found this and thought of you." Tears pricked my eyes, unexpected and genuine. "It's perfect, Caroline." "Thank you." She hesitated, then leaned in to hug me, mindful of my hair and makeup. "Your brother's waiting to walk you down the aisle. And Noah. He looks so happy, Willow. You both deserve this." As she turned to go, I called after her, "Does this mean you don't think I'll die alone with my cats anymore?" Caroline laughed, a real laugh without any edge to it. "I think I was wrong about a lot of things, especially you." Walking down the aisle toward Noah, my brother at my side and Caroline's flowers in my hands, I felt a sense of completion I hadn't expected. This day wasn't about proving Caroline wrong. It was about celebrating the life Noah and I had built together, the love we'd found in each other. At the reception, I watched Caroline arrange the last of the centerpieces, fussing over the placement of each bloom. She caught me looking and smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Your sister-in-law did an amazing job," Noah said, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "Though not as amazing as you look in that dress." I leaned back against him, savoring the moment. "You know, when I asked her to do the flowers, it was kind of petty. I wanted her to have to participate in the wedding she said I'd never have." "And now?" Noah asked, his breath warm against my ear. "Now I'm just glad we found a way to start healing. Life's too short for family feuds." I turned in his arms to face him. "Besides, I have better things to focus on now, like my extremely handsome husband." "I like the sound of that," he said, kissing me softly. "Husband and wife. Has a nice ring to it." Later, as we swayed together for our first dance, I caught sight of Caroline watching us from the edge of the dance floor. She raised her glass in a small toast when our eyes met, and I smiled back. The woman who once told me I'd die alone with my cats was now the one who had filled my wedding with flowers and, unexpectedly, helped bridge the gap between the life I'd left behind and the one I'd built for myself. "What are you thinking about?" Noah asked, noticing my distraction. "Just that sometimes people can surprise you," I replied, laying my head on his shoulder. "Even when you think you have them all figured out." "Speaking of surprises," he murmured, "I have one more wedding gift for you. It's back at the house." "Oh? What kind of surprise?" Noah grinned. "Let's just say Scout is going to have a friend." "You didn't," I gasped, pulling back to look at his face. "Zoe's sister's cat had kittens," he admitted. "There's a little orange one that needed a home. I thought maybe we could start our own little family." Tears welled in my eyes for the second time that day. "I love you so much," I whispered. "I love you too," he replied, pulling me close again. "More than all the books in your shop." "Now that's true love," I laughed, blinking away happy tears. As the reception continued around us, friends laughing, family reconnecting, Zoe doing her best to embarrass me with her maid of honor speech, I felt a sense of contentment settle over me. This wasn't the life I'd planned when I left Boston 3 years ago, but it was better than anything I could have imagined. Caroline had been wrong about me, about my choices, about my future. But in the end, her doubt had pushed me to prove something, not just to her, but to myself, that I was capable of building a life filled with love, purpose, and joy, even if it didn't follow her prescribed path. And as for the sister-in-law who said I'd never find love, she was now proudly showing wedding guests the floral arrangements she'd created for the wedding she once doubted would ever happen. Life has a funny way of coming full circle sometimes. When Noah and I left the reception that night, showered with flower petals, Caroline's idea naturally, I couldn't help but think that the best revenge wasn't making someone eat their words. It was finding so much happiness that those words no longer had any power over you. And as Noah helped me into the car, leaning down to whisper promises of the life we'd build together, I knew I'd found exactly that.